Tally-ho, Joolz Guides here, in which I wander around London telling you fascinating facts. And today, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of American independence and the fact that America is holding the World Cup, we thought we'd wander around London visiting some key American sites. The best place we could find to do the intro was this statue of Ronald Reagan in Grosvenor Square, because all the other places we wanted to go to had scaffolding up. But anyway, let's go.
My boots ain't blue, they're gonna dance with you tonight. My boots ain't red, they're getting out of bed. No, my dancing boots are brown. They're dancing into town. Woo! Come on, let's go to the hoedown.
Look over here. This is my favourite weather vane up there, so I thought this would be an apt place to start off, because that is the Santa Maria, the boat on which Christopher Columbus sailed across the Atlantic in search of trade shipping routes to Asia back in 1492. Except he didn't find Asia, he ended up landing somewhere in like the Bahamas, around there. This is called Number 2 Temple Place, and it was built by William Waldorf Astor, who was the richest man in America. Some people say the richest in the world, as in the Waldorf Astoria, Waldorf salad, that sort of thing. But he was worried that his kids would be abducted or something. He didn't feel it was very safe because he was so rich over in America. So he came over here and he wanted a nice place from which to govern his estate. They've got some wonderful details. Look at this fella here, for example, a boy on the telephone. But the telephone had only just been invented at the time when this was built. On the other side, there's another kid looking into it, thinking, hey, what's this? What's going on over here? And he used the interior as a kind of showcase for his fantasies. They've got all sorts of different references to American English history and plays, Shakespeare, all sorts. Paddy, nice to meet you. You are the
director of 2 Temple Place.
Wonderful. This is one of my favourite buildings. Honestly, I really love it. I particularly respect this staircase here.
It's the Grand State, built as William Waldorf Astor's office. So now it's owned by a charity called the Bulldog Trust. And we do exhibitions, and we also work with community groups and schools. So the larger figures here are all characters from novels of the American frontier.
Right, the ones at the top of columns?
Yes, at the top of the columns. And you see there are Native American heads and the column heads and beavers.
Right.
So the initial Astor fortune is built from fur trapping. Yeah. And actually, if we come round this way, you will see the last of the Mohicans up here.
Who have we got on the stairs here? We've got like the Three Musketeers.
The Three Musketeers and the female characters from the book on the side there.
Yeah. I was always obsessed with the Shakespeare friezes.
Yes, the
because whenever I come in here, I'm always
lovely.
looking at all the Shakespeare.
We bring people in here to break down the barriers about places like this, so that everyone should feel welcome. All our events are free whenever we can be. And we have a big opening in the summer. You can actually do some stone carving, do some wood carving, do some gilding. So we're trying to promote the future of those crafts while showing off the building. But these are the finest craftsmen of the Victorian age, and actually mostly they're doing things like cathedrals and churches.
Oh, really?
This amazing stone floor, it's a copy of the floors in the Roman churches. It has 23 semi-precious stones in it, and imperial porphyry.
Not bad for a man who invented a salad. This always reminds me of being in a Sherlock Holmes or something. Because they've got all these fancy...
Yes.
Oh, look at that.
Have hidden compartments.
Mullaram, Mullaram. It's the place that Mullaram disappears to in Indiana Jones.
His drinks cabinet, I always like to think.
I have been expecting you, Mr. Bond.
But then we have secret doors. We'll open that.
Yeah, so it must be so cool just being able to wander around in here when it's empty like
It
that.
It is, yeah. It's actually so peaceful. You're in the middle of the city, and it's incredibly peaceful in here. It's a very eccentric thing because he mixes up historical and literary characters.
Right.
And he doesn't really differentiate. Christopher Columbus is up here somewhere.
Born in Genova, same city as my mum.
There he is. Here, Pocahontas is up here somewhere. I think there she is. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Quite a few things that relate to early colonization of the Americas.
It'd be so cool, wouldn't it, to be able to do that? Just like, have so much money that you can just say, you know what, I'm going to have a house built in an amazing style with all my favourite characters. Mine would definitely have David Bowie in there.
You get a proper view of the weathering.
This is so cool. Thanks so much. Oh, I can't believe what we got up here. I'm so pleased. Made my day. Oh no, that weather vane is the most badly behaved weather vane, it never faces the way I want it to
Yes,
face.
exactly. But it might swing round. for
Oh,
you.
there we go. Oh, magnificent. Isn't it tremendous? Do, 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 do. I'm like a child now. Oh, the ship's on
Yeah,
the-
so the ships on the lamp stands, they're also Columbus's ships, we think.
Right.
They're about the right period.
Now, whilst Columbus ended up finding the New World, the first Englishman to settle in America departed from further down the river over there, near Poplar, where we're going next.
Heel toe to the left, heel toe to the right. Put on your dancing boots, I'm gonna dance with you tonight. Heel toe to the left, heel toe to the right. Come on, let's go to Nashville tonight.
Now, this is, I don't know if this is the original location of this monument, but the Virginia Settlers Monument. Isn't that terrific? From near this spot, in December 19th, 1606, that's a good few years before the Mayflower set sail, sailed with 105 adventurers, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed and the Discovery, landed at Cape Henry, Virginia, where these adventurers founded the first permanent English colony in America, under the leadership of intrepid Captain John Smith.
Well, you know who that is. That's Pocahontas. She's buried in Gravesend, isn't she? Pocahontas. Do you know who voiced John Smith in the Disney Pocahontas?
No.
Mel Gibson.
Was it? Yeah. United States flag, you've got the Union flag, and that, I believe, is the flag of Virginia. Yeah. So this plaque presumably was originally on Brunswick House, which formerly stood about 100 yards to the west. So 100 yards over that direction is where they set sail from, somewhere along there.
In 1607, we sailed the open seas for glory, God, and gold, and the Virginia Company. For the New World is like heaven, and we'll all be rich and free.
13 years after the Virginia settlers headed off to America, the Pilgrim Fathers set off from here in Rotherhithe on the Mayflower. The Mayflower was moored here by Captain Christopher Jones, just outside where the Mayflower pub is there, look. And they founded the Plymouth colony in modern-day Massachusetts. The Pilgrims, who were persecuted in England, hoped for freedom to practice their faith in the New World. The ship arrived in America at a harsh time of year, which the Pilgrims struggled to endure, but they found friendship and salvation in the Native American people. I'm not sure that kindness was particularly well repaid, but anyway, 6 months later, the captain came back and he moored the Mayflower here, and it just rotted away on these very banks here. Captain Christopher Jones died a couple of years after arriving back here, and he's buried somewhere in this churchyard over here. 1 pint of Amstel and a pint of Moretti, please. The thing about this place is you can actually buy American stamps in here, because back in the days when this was a port and everything, sailors and stuff on their American ships, they wouldn't want to spend their time going to send things off, so they could go to the bar here and buy these American stamps. I think it's the only place licensed by the US Postal Service outside the US to sell American stamps. So I think what it was just to save people time on their shore leave, so they would just buy a stamp and then they would post it once they got back there or
Oh,
something.
howdy, Jack, in your 10-gallon hat tonight. Howdy, Jack, in your 10-gallon hat. You better get your gun. I'm going fast as a bandit on the run. Woo, come on, let's go.
There he is, old Georgie, King George III, the one who went a bit mad. He's the one whose stubbornness accidentally created the United States. And in order to fund his global empire, the British Empire, he slapped heavy taxes on the colonies. And they took that a little bit badly. They said, no taxation without representation. And a fury boiled over in 1773 with the Boston Tea Party, when a bunch of colonists threw over 300 chests of British tea into the Boston Harbour, making it unsuitable for drinking, even for Americans, Simon. Hilarious. Little Mary Poppins joke there. That made King George mad, and instead of backing down, he retaliated with brutal, intolerable acts like shutting down Boston's ports, banning town meetings, and forcing citizens to house British troops. And he thought that these acts would crush the resistance and force them into submission. But instead, it just galvanised them, and 13 colonies ended up arming themselves, setting the stage for the first shots fired at Lexington and Concord. Excellent. Look at that, Simon. Franklin there, a Franklin. And Benjamin Franklin lived in London for 15 years or so. This house here is the only one in the whole world which still exists that he lived in. When he first came to London, he was one of Britain's most loyal American subjects. But by the time he left, he had been the architect of American independence. Hello, Megan.
Hello, welcome to Benjamin Franklin House.
Thanks, this is terrific. I've never been here.
These are the original stairs that would have been in the home when Franklin was here.
Yeah.
On rainy days, how he would get his steps in is to march up and down those stairs with sort of makeshift dumbbells in his hands. So when he first comes over here in 1757, he's working as a diplomat, and he was meant to effectively just be settling a bit of a taxation dispute, as was always the issue between Britain and the colonies.
Tax dodgers, yeah.
So he thought, okay, this will take a couple of months maybe. In reality, that took more than just a few months to settle. By that time, things were escalating between Britain and the colonies over other taxation measures. Right. So he sort of became the go-to guy for colonial affairs abroad. When he first comes to London, he's actually only representing Pennsylvania. But by the time he leaves here in 1775, he's representing Massachusetts, Georgia, and New Jersey.
So he wasn't like a revolutionary when he arrived. He didn't come over sort of saying, we want independence or anything like that.
For sure. We actually like to say that he came here a royalist and left a revolutionary.
I think it was your colleague who was saying that Benjamin Franklin used to stand here and like naked for some reason.
Yeah, he was a big believer in the power of fresh air. He thought it was good for us physically and mentally. So as part of his daily routine, he would get out of bed in the mornings, walk over to the central window.
Come over to the central window, right, yeah, tackle out.
Yeah, I'm not saying you reenact it, if you want to.
So he just stood here starkers.
He did, to let the cold air quite literally wash over him.
He was an inventor and a scientist and all sorts.
Yeah, so he was very interested in eyeglasses. Often it's said that he invented the bifocal. I prefer to say that he perfected it.
I bet he would have looked quite funny wearing these. I bet at the time people probably teased him about them.
Yeah, you can see in that portrait right over there. Yeah. He was a bifocal user. But we believe he sat for that portrait in this parlor here.
That's tremendous.
Franklin happened to be at a dinner one evening, and the entertainment was a gentleman who was playing wine glasses to make music.
Oh, yeah.
He thinks about it and he's like, you know what? I could do better. Press firmly on the edge of the bowl.
That is so... You see, he was quite smart, wasn't he? That's fantastic.
Do you want to have a go?
Yes, I do. I definitely want to have a go. Sounds creepy.
It does, it's a haunting. He leaves here in spring of 1775, and when he arrives in Philadelphia, he finds himself in the middle of a full-fledged conflict. So he very quickly pushes to militarize alongside the colonies. He sort of sees it as, we've done everything that we could with the power of the pen, and it hasn't gotten us anywhere.
I heard that he was a big murderer or something, and he buried all his victims in the basement.
Benjamin Franklin, serial killer. We get that a lot. While Franklin was here, this was actually also home to a medical school. Where we're standing here would have been the site of various cadaver labs. 1,500 bone fragments were found underneath our feet here.
None of whom were actually his victims. How disappointing.
Not that we know of. We're open to the public 5 days a week.
Okay.
Tuesdays, we host school children from all over London. Our education program is delivered completely free of charge. And then Mondays, we are open by request. So if you have a private tour or you just want to visit and you're only in London for one day, we will open the house for you on Mondays as well.
I mean, fancy throwing all that tea into the harbour. I hope it wasn't Twinings. Whenever I'm trying to buy tea in other countries, they always have Lipton and
Yeah.
other types, like, but I don't know, they never have the ones that I drink. I don't know.
Lipton iced tea is very popular, isn't it?
Yeah,
in
that's
America?
yeah.
It's not here at all.
Yeah, I hardly ever find PG tips in a supermarket in other countries.
No.
Or some Lions Red Label, Simon.
Yorkshire Gold, please.
Have you seen that video of the lady in America? I think it's on TikTok or something, where she's trying to teach you how to make a cup of tea.
No, I've not seen that.
Oh,
No.
no. Well, I can't remember. I haven't seen it for a while. I think she goes, take a glass of water, put it into a microwave, then you take it out, or with a tea bag or something. It was so. Then she got so many messages. I don't know if she was for real. I have a feeling that she was actually just doing it for
the
for
views.
effect. Look, the Banksy statue's still there. Look. I thought they'd removed that. And this is where Lord Germain's house used to be. Lord Germain was like the Secretary of State for America back in 1781, which is when Charles Cornwallis had to surrender at Yorktown. And it took them over a month to get that news all the way back to London. So I don't know, some dispatch rider was sent off and he had to come all the way across the Atlantic, and he came down here to deliver the news to the Secretary of State, who then jumped into a carriage and went all the way up to Lord Stormont over in Portland Place, and then they went down to Bloomsbury to see Lord Chancellor Thurlow, and then they all jumped in a carriage and headed down to Downing Street to tell Lord North, who was Prime Minister, that the British forces had been defeated. But when they sent word to King George, who was like a few miles west down in Kew Palace, he was determined to fight on, but the Parliament just said at the end, look, we're not going to finance any more of this. He even drafted his own abdication letter, actually, King George III, but he never went through with it in the end.
I'm wearing my brown boots. I know Mr. Bowie, bang.
Here, just off Berkeley Square, is the Lansdowne Club. Look at that. William Petty, Earl of Shelburne, first Marquess of Lansdowne. He was the Prime Minister and supporter of American independence. He was the Prime Minister who replaced Lord North after Lord North resigned. Like, speaking of Americans, Harry Gordon Selfridge lived here as well. He's the guy who founded Selfridge's department store. Didn't he invent the phrase, the customer is always right? I think he did, anyway. Anyway, let's head inside. Very fancy in here. These days, this is the Lansdowne Club, but the whole house was designed by Robert Adam and built in 1763. And in 1783, William Petty, who was the Marquess of Lansdowne, which is why it's called the Lansdowne Club, he moved in here, and his sole purpose was to try and end the American War of Independence. And actually, if you look in this room here, this is where envoys like John Jay and Benjamin Franklin came to hammer out peace deals and stuff like that. Look at this. This is a sort of facsimile, the actual Treaty of Paris that finished the American War of Independence. It was signed in Paris, and officially the meetings took place in Paris, but William Petty received many of the envoys here. Look, and it's got people like John Adams signed it, Benjamin Franklin on there, John Jay, there we go. But yeah, it's amazing that one of the most important treaties in the history of the world was drafted in this room.
Paul Perkins sway, but they're sure handmade, 'cause tonight I'm wearing my brown boots.
Look at that, number 9, Grosvenor Square. I think that's the first American embassy ever in the world, really. John Adams, who was the second president of the United States, he lived there from 1785. I guess he was the first ambassador when he was there. John Adams and Abigail, his wife, through character and personality, did much to create understanding between the two English-speaking countries. Thanks, guys. Much appreciated. And actually, Grosvenor Square's had a connection with America ever since. So if you look over here, the American embassy used to be on the other side there. It's funny that you were asking me, Simon, about freeholds and how in this country you can own the building, but you don't necessarily own the land that it's on and things like that. This is no longer the American embassy. I don't know if this is true. They say that because most American embassies are all on American land, like when President Kennedy, he said, listen, can we own the land, please, that the American embassy is on here? And the Duke of Westminster said, no, I'll give you a lease for 900 years or whatever it was. And he said, well, look, come on, there must be something you can do. And the Duke of Westminster said, I'll tell you what, if you give my family back all the land that was confiscated during the American War of Independence, then then I'll let you have this one. Of course, that would have included like places like Cape Canaveral and like most of Maine and stuff. So they said, nah, you're all right. I don't know if that was the reason that they moved, but they've moved down to Vauxhall now. But there's still quite a few connections with America here. Look, you've got Franklin Delano Roosevelt over there, Dwight Eisenhower here, and his headquarters during the Second World War was just over there at number 20. Look. Look at all this lovely 18th century wood panelling here. We're here in Pickering Place. This is like the smallest square in London. I've been here many times in my videos. You probably recognise them. But today we're here to talk about this. Look at it here on the wall, look, Texas Legation. This building was the legation for the ministers from the Republic of Texas. So in 1836, Texas broke away from Mexico to become a republic. And Sam Houston, who was the president of Texas, to stop a re-invasion of Mexicans, he sent diplomats to Europe to win support. And so they opened up this legation here, which is a bit like a kind of embassy. And they rented the rooms just upstairs here, above Berry Brothers and Rudd, which is the oldest wine shop in London. They thought it was very fancy because it was right opposite St James's Palace over here, which is where foreign diplomats had to report to the monarch. But it wasn't so fancy because the rooms that they hired were previously a gambling den and a brothel. But of course, by 1845, they had joined the United States of America. So the legation was no longer needed. But they forgot to pay their £160 rent. But in 1986, the debt was finally settled. 26 Texans came over wearing traditional buckskin jackets, and they paid off the £160, but using vintage, obsolete Republic of Texas banknotes. Look at that, Simon. Look at that bush house there. A monument to transatlantic commerce and friendship.
Yes.
So we're still friends after all.
To the friendship of English-speaking peoples.
Yeah. And so that's who those two fellas represent there. It's supposed to be Britain and America. It was funded by a very wealthy American businessman called Irving T. Bush, hence the name Bush House, and it was designed by Harvey Corbett, an American designer. It was open on the 4th of July, 1925. And at the time when they built this, it was the most expensive building in the world. It cost them £10 million to build.
You can see it's very American, can't you? Like the design. Yeah. Or the windows and those kind of crisscross bars.
That's true, it wouldn't look out of place in Washington or something like that. I can imagine Abraham Lincoln sitting on his chair right in the middle there. In the war, a bomb dropped and it knocked off the right arm of the English guy on the left. But because the left arm was still holding hands with the other guy, they said this is a true sign of the special relationship.
The bond, nothing can break us apart.
Yeah. Is that a goal?
I think it might be a real goal.
It's a real goal. No offside. This is your bar, right?
Yeah, a bit of it.
What does Passyunk mean anyway?
Passyunk means in the valley because Philadelphia is between two rivers. So Passyunk Avenue runs through the valley. It's also the very first spot that a cheesesteak was made in Philadelphia.
So this is the best place to get a Philly steak, is it?
This is the only place to get a Philly steak in London.
I'm going to have to try one of those.
The rest are just steak and cheese.
Cheers, Simon. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you like the videos, and go to my website, joolzguides.com, where you can find out more about me. And if you want to buy Little Lost Lou's song or album, which you've been listening to throughout this video, just follow the links below. It's also available on my website. Happy 4th of July, everybody!
Happy 4th of July!
One of these days, these boots are gonna dance, dance, dance with you.